Hey everybody, what's happening? Brent Axe here from syracuse.com. We're live on the Syracuse Orange Basketball Facebook page, and we're coming off the heels of a Syracuse loss in Raleigh tonight. Syracuse falling to North Carolina State. Final score was 73-58, so Syracuse moves to 8-4 in ACC play this season, 17-8 overall. And this one will sting, as this was one of the more winnable quad one games left on their schedule, one of the more winnable road games left on Syracuse's schedule, and they really need to pile up a few more ACC wins here, knowing the gauntlet that starts a week from today. Kind of weird that Syracuse is going to have a week off here as they head down the home stretch in ACC play, but apparently they need it to work on their offense and to get ready for what's going to be a very tough stretch. I'm sure a lot of you saw Louisville lose to Duke last night, lose a 23-point lead, but still going to be a tough game in the Carrier Dome a week from tonight on February 20th, and the big matchup against Duke at the Carrier Dome, a sold-out game, already 35,000 plus, going to be in the Dome for that one. You turn around, you play North Carolina. You've got Virginia not long after that, a trip to Wake Forest mixed in there, which is a game you cannot slip on a banana peel, considering that's a quad 3 game at this point. Wake Forest, frankly, is just not a very good team. And then you get Clemson. So any combination of 11 wins in the ACC for Syracuse is surely going to get them in the tournament. But they're not going to win a lot more games down the stretch if they play the way they did tonight on the offensive end. We're here tonight thanks to Krause Health. You guys get in the comments, do your thing. I will jump in there momentarily and respond to you guys. But just to look at a couple of things in this game tonight, it's really amazing to look at some of the stats tonight. Here's one. Frank Howard, who's really been struggling for the most part on the offensive end and other parts of the floor. And tonight, he wasn't at his best in terms of other parts of the floor. He had 5 turnovers and did not have any assists, but he was the only one scoring for Syracuse in this game. He goes 8 for 16 from the field. He hits 5 3-pointers. The rest of Syracuse's starting 5 was a combined 7 for 29. When you look at the three-point numbers, so Syracuse goes 5 of 25 from three-point range. Frank Howard made all those three-pointers. So the rest of the Orange go 0 of 14. O'Shea Brissett, Tyus Battle, and Elijah Hughes this season have combined to average 44 points a game for Syracuse. Tonight, O'Shea with 2 points and 5 rebounds. Remember, he was coming off a stretch of 3 straight double-doubles. He's 1 for 9 from the field. Tyus Battle uncharacteristically struggles tonight. He got into foul trouble, had to sit for portions of the game. When he got to his 4th foul, only plays 32 minutes, which is a low figure for him. He just has 7 points on the night. Marek Dolezaj was Syracuse's second leading scorer in this game. He had 10 points in this one. Jim Boeheim going deeper than he has in ACC play on his bench for this one. Robert Braswell came in and played about 8 minutes in this game. Actually played pretty well, knocked away a couple of passes, created a couple of turnovers for Syracuse, and held his own out there. I was surprised we didn't see much of him in the second half, but he got some run. Jalen Carey played 10 minutes in this game, scored 4 points. Was decent out there. Didn't turn the ball over a lot, just 1 turnover for him. Elijah Hughes, we mentioned, really struggling again for Syracuse, and that's a concern because he was somebody who was very consistent, scoring in double figures, hitting some three-pointers, but he's off tonight, 2 of 10, 0 of 5 from three-point range. Buddy Boeheim, who had been white-hot from three-point range as of late. Syracuse played an aggressive, frankly, hand-checking NC State team. The officiating in this game was very frustrating in that the amount of whistles on both sides. I don't know about you guys, but I tuned in to watch, guys in zebra jerseys blow a whistle all night. Very frustrating how active, how closely called this game was for Syracuse. So Buddy struggling against an aggressive man-to-man defense that NC State put out there. He scores just 2 points. He goes 0 for 4 from three-point range. It's interesting to note that, though, because NC State's the worst defensive team in the ACC. They were allowing an average of 77 points per game, and Syracuse scores 19 points fewer than that tonight, just 58 points on the night for Syracuse. So they go 21 of 60 overall. They shoot 35%. We mentioned 5 of 25 from three-point range. Hashtag free throws matter, and Syracuse was awful at the free throw line tonight, 11 of 22. That's 50%. Syracuse got out-rebounded by NC State. Here's the thing that's really got to bite at you, too, if you're a Syracuse fan. They only turned the ball over 12 times. It was just such a bad shooting night, and Syracuse created 20 turnovers. Their points off turnover numbers were right where they want them to be. Syracuse had 24 points off turnovers. That's exactly where you want to be against a team like this, but so many other things did not go right tonight that it really didn't matter for Syracuse. So bad night, bad game overall for the Orange, and now they're sitting at 8-4 in ACC play, and we mentioned all those tough games to come for the Orange. It's interesting that they get a week off. Syracuse, sometimes the best thing you do is just kind of get away from the game for a couple of days, get your head right, get back and practice, get some offensive flow going. I wonder how if Jim Boeheim will continue to go deeper on his bench. He had to tonight, just out of necessity, because O'Shea Brissett picked up 3 fouls early. Tyus Battle had 2 fouls. Frank Howard had 2 fouls by halftime. So by necessity, he had to go deeper on the bench, but maybe it's a good idea to continue to go deeper on the bench in the sense that, this was a unique game in that Elijah O'Shea and Tyus didn't score. Frank was your leading scorer, which just goes to tell you what kind of night it was for Syracuse. So maybe we won't see that if a couple of those guys get back on track on the offensive end in the next game. Not going to be easy to do. I guess the good news is the next 2 are at home. You get a week off, and the next 2 are at home. Interesting note about Syracuse in ACC play. They were pretty good on the road coming into this game. They were 4-1 coming in. They're now 4-2 on the road in ACC play. All 4 of Syracuse's ACC losses have been by double figures. So when Syracuse loses ACC games, they lose. It's not tight. It's not down the stretch. It's just they flat out can't shoot. They have a bad offensive night, as they did tonight, and ACC opponents really take advantage of that. NC State really needed this game. Their conference schedule is all over the place. They scored 24 points in a game, 24 against Virginia Tech a couple weeks ago. They responded with 96 against North Carolina, still lose that game. They had come in tonight losing 3 of their last 4. They did beat Pittsburgh on Saturday, and they really needed a quality ACC win to keep themselves in the conversation for the NCAA tournament. Syracuse is still in the conversation, but knowing how tough the road is ahead, how, you need all hands on deck to beat teams like Louisville and Duke and North Carolina, and certainly cannot play the way you did tonight and expect to be competitive in games like that. What you need is a full balanced effort, and what you got was essentially 2 guys. And really 1.5, because Marek Dolzaj, as much as he made some good plays and had a presence out there, he was kind of like the default guy that picked up some rebounds, charged the basket a few times. When Frank's your leading guy at 21, Marek's next at 10. That really goes to show you how much Syracuse really struggled on the offensive end tonight. And I'm bewildered by that turnover stat. It just shows you, Syracuse did what they had to do on the defensive end. You get 20 turnovers in a game and collect that many points off turnovers, and you still lose by the margin that Syracuse did. It just goes to show you how much they struggled on the offensive end tonight. So let's see what you guys got for me today in the comments section. Really flowing out there. I can barely keep up with you here, so I'll just respond to a few things you're saying right now. My man Javen said, Brent, I have a lot today. This is where Coach gets me mad. If Braswell is a great defensive first half, why aren't you playing him in the second? Also, does Jim ever run plays? ISO ball won't always work. And to finish off my rant, I'm done with Frank Howard. I don't care how many points he has. He does not play like a senior guard, so many turnovers and bad shots. There's not a lot I can disagree with there, Javen. Frank Howard, it's now, tomorrow's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. And he still doesn't look like a senior guard. He's all over the place. He scored 21 points tonight, and I'll give him credit for that, but it's so random. It's so out of place. He refuses to drive the ball inside. He did not collect an assist in this game. Let me just double-check myself here. Yeah, no assists in this game, 5 turnovers in this game. You brought up the lack of ball movement, the lack of an offense. Let's look at this. NC State had 24 field goals in this game. 19 of those were assisted. Syracuse had 21 field goals in this game, and 8 of those were assisted. That's where that ISO ball comes in, jacking up bad shots, forcing things that are not there. And that's a common theme for Syracuse. A lot of their assists come off of kind of quick passes, made shots, a lot of times from the three-point range, when Buddy's flowing from three-point, when Elijah's flowing from three-point, that one pass and shot turns into an assist. When you have a bad shooting night, you're not going to have a lot of assists. That's a very common denominator when Syracuse loses. Their assist numbers will be in the single digits. They'll be low, and their opponents will have very high percentages on the assist numbers tonight. Braxton Beverly going off for NC State tonight. Let's see what he did overall. I believe he had a career high, if not close to a career high tonight. He had 21 points, hit all 9 of his free throws, 4 of 8 from three-point range. Torin Dorn a terrific player for NC State. He had 16 points in this game. And it was interesting to see Syracuse play more players than NC State did. NC State's the team that had 6 guys averaging, I think, at least like 15 minutes per game coming into this one. Syracuse had to go deep down the bench, but as we found out, didn't matter. And that's another point that Javen made. I was surprised not to see Braswell play some more. I think, Boeheim is still hesitant to go to younger players in key spots, but look, nothing else was working. And he was great on the defensive end. He held his own out there. I think he certainly deserved in this game. I'm not saying going forward he's got to get a lot of minutes, but in this game, kind of helping out in relief, he certainly deserved more than 7 minutes in this one. So not a lot I can disagree with her, Javen. I think he made a lot of great points. Foul Breeze says no heart. It's that simple and no play calling. Well, you can look at it that way. I think this is just an offensive, how can I put this? It's an offensively disorganized team. I wouldn't say they don't have heart. I mean, there's been teams that have shown more heart, more grit, more hustle. That defense that Syracuse played last year, for example, and they were down to 6 guys and their backs were against the wall. And it's interesting when you're put in that scenario. This defense, gets a lot of steals and a lot of turnovers, but they have to turn that into offensive possessions the other way. And that's not what we saw happen tonight, for sure. Jerry saying someone always hits a career high when they play Syracuse. That is a trend. I talked to my friend Lauren Brownlow on the radio today. Lauren does radio herself down in 99.9 The Fan, WRAL, which is in the Raleigh area. And we brought that up today. I said, who's the guy that's going to come in and randomly drop like 25 points on Syracuse? Beverly's not a random person in that sense. This is a guy who can score. He's one of their best three-point shooters. He's taken more threes than anybody on that team, but it's always somebody that gets that career high. He came out, roared out of the second half, had 9 points before you could even figure out what was going on, had a couple of three-pointers, got to the free throw line, was fouled behind the free throw line, and we mentioned it, went 9 of 9 at the free throw line. That's not a guy you want to put on the free throw line that many times, and he cashed them all in. Meanwhile, Syracuse is going 11 of 22 at the free throw line. You guys are very frustrated tonight, and I really can't blame you. That was a frustrating game. It was awful to watch. I'm not saying the refs tilted it one way or the other because by the time it all evened out, I don't think it mattered. But, NC State, a lot of hand checking, and they were just calling everything. Let's see. Let's dig into the numbers here. Foul-wise, there were 22 foul calls in the first half of this game, only 19 made baskets, which just goes to show you, I just hate when refs get so involved and get so ticky-tacky and call everything. No one's tuning in to watch that. That's not basketball. It's garbage when that happens. You got to call the game, and you got to call what you see. But they were calling everything in this game. It ended up going, Syracuse had 19 fouls, NC State had 17. That's a lot of foul calls. That's a lot. There was 22 in the first half. No one wants to watch that. It was an unwatchable game in a lot of senses. And then when Syracuse couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat, just made it a long night to sit there and watch Syracuse basketball. Chris saying not a good loss with the schedule coming up. Chris, that's really the point. I was talking to a friend of mine today, and he said, boy, you've really been hyping up that schedule, huh? And I said, it's not me. Just look at it. You got top 16 team in Louisville, who, blew a 23-point lead against Duke, but they had a 23-point lead on Duke as well. Chris Mack's doing a terrific job with that Louisville team. I wonder how they're going to recover psychologically from that game, but they've got a week to figure that out before they come to the Carrier Dome. Duke follows that. Duke has – you watched them last night, right? Cam Reddish is back. Trey Jones is back. They're down by 23 with 9 minutes to go on the road. Now, playing at Louisville is not like playing before 35,000 people in the Carrier Dome. And there's just something when Syracuse and Duke get together that it seems to be a competitive game. But Duke's a different team right now. I think Duke's the best team in the country. I know Tennessee's number one, but nobody has the collection of talent and could pull off what Duke did last night. So they're going to come to the Carrier Dome pretty ticked off the way that they lost to Syracuse. Trey Jones is going to want to get out there and play well. Remember, Cam Reddish didn't play in that game. He's hitting big shots left and right last night for Duke. So you got that one, and then you turn around 3 days later, you go to North Carolina. That was announced as a 9 o'clock game, by the way, on Tuesday, February the 26th, and Virginia still left. And Virginia is at the Dome. So Louisville, Duke, Virginia, all at the Dome. But those are all very, very tough matchups for Syracuse, particularly Virginia. Virginia's just that's a nightmare matchup for Syracuse in a lot of ways. So you got to get to 11 wins somehow, which means now you got to pull off an upset over one of these teams. Had you beaten NC State tonight and got to that 9th ACC win, now you're going down that really tough stretch. You just got to pull off a couple more wins somewhere. 11 wins in any combination get you in the tournament. Now Syracuse is really going to have to fight, scratch, and claw its way to see if you can get that 11th win. You don't want to ever go into the ACC tournament feeling like you got to win a couple games there to ensure your NCAA tournament berth. This all sounds very familiar, right? We've had these discussions the past few years with this team. Eric wants Rick Pitino to come in as an assistant. We're going back to the future there. Jim Boeheim's first assistant coach, 1976. He hires Rick Pitino on his honeymoon. I think we all know that story, right? Bring him back, he says. Matt saying that Tennessee has played pretty much nobody, only played 2 ranked teams. That's exactly it. That's why I think Duke is the best team in the country. Tennessee's, good for them. Rick Barnes doing a great job there, has turned that program around, but Duke's best team in the country. Brandon wanted Eric Devendorf back as coach. Eric's doing a nice job out in Detroit Mercy now, getting an opportunity as an assistant coach there. She threw a shoe the other day. Reminds me of that Austin Powers movie. Who throws a shoe, honestly? Sorry, that's bad accent. I've got a cold. I can't do my bad British accent as it is. Jeff saying for SU to be a bubble team year in and year out is frustrating, and that's what they have been. Last year, they were literally the last team in, number 68. Year before that, they missed out. Year before that, they got in, made it to a really deep run to the Final Four. I mean, go figure. This team is so hard to figure out. All you need is Syracuse to get in. Get in, and you get matchups. You get teams that don't know how to play the zone defense. Last year was a couple quick turnarounds. They were in the play-in round and caught a few teams that just, couldn't handle Syracuse's defense. A lot of close games. Remember, a lot of those games came down to some last possessions. But to be a bubble team, and it's interesting because Syracuse, as a bubble team, is still 8-4. They're in the top half of the ACC. But if you've watched this team game in and game out, I brought up those 4 ACC losses, they can just have nights like this where they bottom out. They're not getting good play from their point guard. They're so reliant on Tyus Battle, he can't score 30 points every night. O'Shea Brissett had 3 straight double-doubles. I'm not going to knock him too much. And he got into foul trouble, 3 fouls in the first half, so you kind of wipe him off. The guy I'd be really concerned about is Elijah Hughes. And I think teams are just, I saw NC State really focus on him, take him off his comfort. They did the same thing with Buddy Boeheim. They kind of took him off his spots, made sure they didn't get comfortable, and made sure they didn't get open for a lot of, good quality 3-point shots. And, I brought up that stat earlier, which is mind-bending to think about, that Frank Howard goes 5 of 11 from 3-point range, and the rest of the team combines to go 0 of 14. That's just incredible. Somebody's just got to hit a couple of shots just by dumb luck, but it did not happen tonight. Antonio says that Syracuse needs to stop recruiting players to just fit the zone and players that actually know how to play their position and stop getting project centers. A lot of projects over the past few years. Pascal Chukwu, nowhere to be seen tonight. I'll tell you what, Barama Sidibe, this is a guy who's not been playing a lot. For him to hang in there for 18 minutes tonight, let's pull up his numbers while we're talking about him. He had 6 rebounds. He actually led Syracuse in rebounding with 6 rebounds, which is not good, but overall, but for him it's good. And had a presence, had a nice dunk inside. He was terrible at the free throw line, but I would expect that from Barama Sidibe. I'll give him, some sort of, attaboy, I guess, for lack of a better term, because he's just been nowhere. He's been a ghost the past few games. Pascal Chukwu plays 11 minutes. Did he do anything in this game? It's amazing how someone can be 7'2" and have no presence. John Bolajak is a player that they recruited next year. That's another project at center. They wanted Isaiah Stewart. They wanted that, an athletic presence, somebody that can really move, one of the best rebounders I've seen at the high school level. He went to Washington with Mike Hopkins. That relationship developed early when Hop was still here, as a matter of fact, and he went out there and he's going to play with him. That was a big miss for Syracuse. They need a big man. They need a big man that can move inside. They need an athletic player. And I agree with that. I think you just got to stop recruiting these, 7'2", 7'3" projects and hope they pan out. Pascal Chukwu didn't for the most part. He's had some nice games. He had 18 rebounds against Duke and a couple other games that you got to give him credit for that, but he's mostly been a bust. So I can't disagree with that either. You guys are making some fair comments out there tonight. Tommy disagrees, saying that Pascal altered a lot of shots and played good defense. He only played 10 minutes though. So it did, I'll pull up his numbers while we're yakking about him too. Pascal, so let's see. He scores 2 points, grabbed 2 rebounds, played 11 minutes, did not register a block or a steal in this game. I mean, if he was playing that well, I think he would have stayed out there, Tommy, don't you think? But Boeheim can get pretty frustrated and can lose patience with players. So, I'll give you that. Mike saying we have had plenty of great centers. We're missing a coach at that position. That's always been an interesting debate about should Syracuse have a big man coach the big men. Because you look at Syracuse's assistant coaches, they're all guards. Adrian Autry, Jerry McNamara, and Alan Griffin. Now, if you know basketball, you know basketball. I don't know if I agree with that debate. I mean, once upon a time, Bernie Fine coached the big men. Bernie Fine. I mean, that's not a guy that, played center at the NBA level. And he coached the big men once upon a time. So I think that debate can go both ways. And I don't know if I buy it. If you have an opportunity to bring in a player that played that position but knows the game all around, I don't think you need a specialist by any stretch of the imagination. If you know basketball, you know basketball. These guys can coach the position. Mike Hopkins was coaching the big men at some point. People were critical of that when he was here. And now I think everybody would take Mike Hopkins back in a heartbeat in one way, shape, or form back here in Syracuse. I think we're going to end there for tonight, guys. It's getting late, and I got to get cracking and start writing a recap for you guys for the morning. And I'm starting to lose my voice because I have a cold. So I think I'll duck out right there. I can't believe we're going to have a week off. We're just in this rhythm, games every few days, but a rare week off for Syracuse here in ACC play. So they won't get back on the court until a week from tonight against Louisville at the Carrier Dome. We'll see how Syracuse, works on practice and gets that offense flowing again and gets ready for the gauntlet. What a stretch coming up for Syracuse. Can they find a few ACC wins in there, get to that 11-win mark, and ensure themselves an NCAA tournament bid? That's going to be the big question. Thanks to Krause Health for presenting tonight. Thanks to you guys for hanging. Enjoy your week. Enjoy your weekend. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time here on Facebook Live.